Hi everybody, welcome back to the Time to Thrive podcast. We are here with our new couple that's going to join us as we dive deep into some questions, talking about endurance for this month. So we have Monty and Tonya Mayberry here with us. We're going to go into a little icebreaker question for all of us and then get into the questions. So thank y'all for being here. We really appreciate it. And I'll hand it over to Haley.
So if you could go anywhere in the world right now, where would you travel to? Do you have a place?
I would go to Argentina. I don't know. That's the first thing that came to my mind was Argentina.
Oh, wow.
Argentina.
I would love it.
So I've been to Asia and I've been to Europe, and South America would be really great. Yeah.
Wow. I want to go to Italy so badly. Specifically, there's this lake in the mountains called Lake Como.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go there so badly.
Oh yeah, it is beautiful.
I would like to go, I always say Africa. My one is always Africa all the time. And, like, I'd love to go somewhere with, like, a safari. And, like, I said this last time because the question was kind of similar. And I said, in a safari and, like, a hot air balloon, like, watching all of the animals and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I would like to go to Madagascar, Africa, specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that is so pretty. Yeah. And then I could watch the movie Madagascar and be sitting there.
I always go back and forth between Italy and Tahiti. I still want to go to
Tahiti. Greece is, I think, on everybody's bucket list,
Yeah.
I think. Greece would be a really, really pretty. Is that the one that's sinking? Is Greece sinking? Or
No,
is
it was
Italy
Venice.
Sinking? Oh,
They said
Venice.
Venice was. I don't know if it still is.
I don't know. I would go there too. I would see that too. Well, Paris is always up there too, but definitely Africa would be mine.
That'd be fun.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get into the questions. An easy one here is, how did both of y'all meet, and then where did y'all's relationship start? Whoever can take it.
Well, we were going to church at the same place. I had actually met her sister and brother-in-law. Her brother-in-law helped me out of a jam getting the car fixed once, and we kind of became friends. And then I got to meet Tonya, and probably what was it, about 2 years?
Yeah, because I was on leave.
Yeah, we were friends for about 2 years before we ever got together, and of course it was like to me the best way to do it because we got to know each other.
True.
And have some respect for each other
Yeah.
before we ever considered anything romantic. So.
Oh, that's sweet. I love that.
How long have y'all been together?
22 years this year.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we've been married 22 years.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Congratulations.
that is
Thank you.
awesome. That's
Thank you.
nice. And were both of y'all in the military? Is that what
At
it
one
was?
time, yeah.
That's
Mhm.
awesome. That's really cool. I love that.
Did something very similar.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, she was in electronics in the Navy. I was in electronics in the Air Force.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know you were
Aw.
Navy.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah.
That's really nice.
Yeah.
Aw.
That's cool. Okay, next. And y'all can answer these together. You can answer them separate, whatever you would like. What practices help you stay connected to God and to each other during challenging times?
I think the biggest thing is that our individual walk with God is important. And although it would probably be a more spiritual answer to say we do devotions together or we pray together and those kinds of things, the truth is it's more like we have our own individual devotional time, but then when something comes up that we need to share, we talk about it. There's things that we're wrestling with or thinking about, we talk about those things, and that's the sharing time that's more outside of a devotional type thing than anything else.
Yeah.
What would you say?
I think so. I think our individual relationship with the Lord has to be strong for us to be strong together. So, yeah.
That's good.
And it kind of
Yeah.
works like it does in worship. For example, when we come together to worship as the body, we still are individuals, and we still have to have that relationship one-on-one to the Lord. But it's that dynamic that happens when multiples are together, right?
Yeah.
As Jesus said, when 2 or 3 are gathered, I'm there in the midst. It's that idea of that dynamic factor, and I think that's what happens in our relationship is those things that are troubling to her, and she shares burdens with me, and vice versa, and I share things with her, and it's that communication about sometimes even just the daily things that have a spiritual component to it because of how it's affecting us.
Yeah.
So,
That's good.
Absolutely.
And I think there's trust there too, because if I have an issue, even I just mention it once, I know that he's going to pray about it. There's comfort in knowing that. I mean, there's days I go to work and I'm like, I know my husband's praying for me.
Mm.
Just
Yeah.
there's a lot of trust in that.
Yeah, definitely.
I love that.
Going along with that is, of course, y'all can answer this both together as well, is how do you handle conflicts or disagreements in your relationship, and what strategies do you use to resolve them? That's that's a deep one. That's a deep
Well,
one.
I would say probably by definition we don't have conflict. It never rises to that level because conflicts you always have winners and losers. So we don't really have that. We do have disagreements, but one of those things that we look at, and we talked about this in preparation for this, was the idea that we have a hierarchy of important things in our lives, and anybody looking for a serious relationship needs to consider that hierarchy. For example, there's a circle you draw around certain things that are not negotiable. Not negotiable, you have to be a believer in Christ.
Yeah.
Not negotiable, you have to be growing in Christ. Not negotiable, you know what your role as a man or a woman is in that relationship. And so that's where we start. And so if we're talking about something we disagree with, is that inside the circle or outside the circle? If it's outside the circle, there's negotiation. And sometimes it's just to the benefit of whoever is involved in. And there's a lot of factors that go into making those types of decisions. Sometimes she's going to have what she wants, and sometimes I'm going to have it my way.
Yeah.
And we try to figure out what's the most beneficial thing for each of us at that time. And sometimes it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, right?
Yeah.
You have to determine that. Well, which way does the toilet paper go off the roll? Does it go off front or go off the back, right?
Yeah.
Now, where do you squeeze the toothpaste? Those things are not so essential. But I think sometimes people get hung up on problems because they think that their way and the way they were raised, whatever that was, is the right way to do it or the only way to do it. And that's where you need to, where you have negotiation is, it's not an essential.
Yeah.
What is important?
Yeah.
Does it make you more comfortable to do it that way? Then then I'll accept that and there's no problem. So there's a lot of levels to that, but it kind of gives you the idea that, and once again, you develop that over time too, is the idea of communication.
Yeah.
Those levels of communication. How can I listen to what she's saying and understand what's important to her? For example, a lot of guys don't understand when they get married how intricately involved a woman is with her home. That men don't really understand that that's an extension of herself a lot of times. And so there are things that need to be done a certain way that doesn't insult her, because she may take some of those things personally if I disregard it or don't think it's important.
Yeah.
So that minimizes some of that, just having that understanding a little bit.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would think about going the other way? I mean,
I don't think I'm going the other way with it. I just think that all of that comes with time.
yeah.
I mean, learning that other person. When you get married, I mean, you're in this fog of romance and love and how grand that is. But then when he does put the toilet paper on the wrong way, it's like, hey, like, but does that really matter in the scheme of things?
Yeah.
So you have to determine. You have to learn that person, and then to determine in the scheme of things, is that important? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, would I like things a certain way? Absolutely. Does it really matter? Probably not so much, and that's okay.
Yeah.
And one of those things you do in the process of learning about each other is you figure out, for example, there are things that I take for granted that she should know, that she doesn't know, has never had the opportunity to learn, so I can't hold her responsible for those things. And sometimes you can have friction in couples when people don't understand what they do and what they can do, what they understand, what they've had a chance to learn, what they know. It's just a matter of, once again, as she said, learning how to talk to each other, what's important.
Yeah.
And how realistic are your expectations?
Yeah.
Very good, yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't expect,
Perfection.
yeah.
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 Yeah. I think also when you have like those non-negotiables like already taken care of, like they are a believer, they're on the same track with you,
Right.
wanting the same
Right.
things. I think when you do have like those trials or something happens like big, that way those are already taken care of. It's like, okay, we see this problem, we've already got through the little problems, now we can do this together, like we're on the same page, we have the same mindset. I feel like that makes it a lot easier, like the endurance part of being like we're on the same track.
But it is
similarly.
difficult to do in that pre-process because, once again, you get wrapped up, as she said, in the emotional side of it. And I think a lot of times, especially young women these days, feel pressure because you get to a certain age and you aren't married yet.
Yeah.
Or you feel like that you're becoming, I wouldn't want to use the word desperate, but it's a sense of it. You feel that way, whether it's true or not.
Yeah.
When really the reality is you've got this great value in your life, and that's what we looked at, was what the value that we can represent to each other and to the world. We've got to take care of that. We've got to use it as God sees fit and to try to make the most of what God's provided for us. And if you're a young woman or a young man that is thinking about marriage, that, once again, those non-negotiables, having that set down and understood between the two of you, that you can work together, because that's really what it comes down to. I'm going to go into business with this person for the rest of my life. Do I trust them? Do I respect them? And that's an important thing. And it's something that I guess part of it was the prayer before that got us aligned in the way it did. But we've always had this respect for each other. I guess one of the things I think about is I've never understood men who belittle their wives or make corny jokes about their wife and maybe what they see as a stereotype or a shortcoming or whatever. Whereas I look at it as if, when the Bible tells me to love her as I love my own body, I don't want anybody to make fun of me.
Yeah.
I don't want anybody to think less of me. And so why would I want anybody to think less of her? And usually if you hear me speak about my wife around here, I will openly say, and I'll say it in front of anybody, she's one of the best people I know. She's one of the finest human beings I've ever met. And I respect her. She's intelligent. She's decisive. She's a leader. She's compassionate. And she's all of these things. And you don't ever just get into the humdrum of feeling like, well, it's another day being married and I can take her for granted, because you really can't.
Yeah.
You just can't do that.
And I know that. I knew before we got married that I would be able to go with Monty anywhere. I trust him completely, and I knew that no matter what decisions we had to make, he would make them prayerfully. No doubt. Even if I don't agree with the decision he made, I know that he went in and he did it prayerfully, and whatever that decision was and whatever those consequences were, God's going to honor it either way, because his motive was pure in the decision that was made. And to have that kind of liberty in a relationship. If you have young people that are getting married, you need to be able to trust that person implicitly. You have to, or you're going to question. And I don't want to question him. It's not my place to question him. I'll give him my opinions, but he's the head. And I don't mind following. And I am a type A personality. But marrying him was very easy to relinquish a lot of those things. And there's a book that I have. It's called Liberated Through Submission, and I've given it to two people. I need to give it to your sister. But it's the best book because it's freeing. It allows you as a wife to be in the place that you need to be for your husband, and vice versa. If you see that, it's amazing. And
I think one of the things that emphasizes is that there's a divine order involved in all of these things. And it's not a matter of quality or intelligence. As a matter of fact, it's the opposite. It's responsibility. The man is responsible to God, and then the wife is responsible to God through the husband. Just like, even within the Godhead. You read that passage over in 1 Corinthians, Paul talks about headship. It's a very similar thing. It's the idea that Christ did everything that he did according to God the Father's will. Now, he's not less than the Father, but there was a hierarchy there while he was here on earth. And I think it's a very similar thing between men and women. And when it's done correctly, when I'm loving her like I'm supposed to love her, and that my concern is her good and well-being, that makes her comfortable. It makes her secure, and then we can work together to solve problems and figure things out that we need to do. But I'm ultimately the one that's responsible to God, right? So, and we have, for example, there's a lot of different things that you have to deal with in marriage. How you work on those things is important. And not all of them have to be, the typical. For example, if the wife is not the one that knows how to cook and the husband does, why shouldn't he do the cooking and go to the grocery store, right? No big deal with that. I don't think there's any Christian virtue to the old stereotypical traditional roles like that. Now, there are certain things that only a woman can do. I think being a mother in the home is something that only a woman can do.
Yeah.
Even God bless any single dad, but I believe it was Dr. J. Vernon McGee said that a child can overcome an absent or ne'er-do-well father, but they'll never overcome an absent or ne'er-do-well mother. And because I think Jack Hyles used to say that the woman was the Holy Spirit of the home. And so there's a role that she's got there that is just immense when it comes to eternal impact.
Yeah.
And we talk about submission or whatever, but really there's the vitality to that role that only a woman can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's something that you want to show your children too. One of the things that I always thought about is, am I being a good example to the girls to allow them to see what a good wife needs to be? I tried my best to be a good wife and have a good example for my kids. And I'm not, I'm sure I fell short a lot, but I really did look, and especially with Samantha and the girls, I just felt like I needed to really try to be an example.
Yeah, that's good.
What role does prayer play in your relationship, and how do you incorporate it in your daily life?
We kind of touched on that a little bit, is the
Yeah.
fact that we not necessarily join together to pray, but there are things that I know what she's praying about. I know what she's burdened about, and vice versa. We do communicate about those things just about every day. I know when we first got married, we set out to begin together, and we did do devotions together every day for about the first year. And it did kind of help us to get to know one another better and to share about some things. But eventually we began to do it separately, but once again, to spend that time still talking about the issues that are on our hearts and what we're praying about.
When I read that question, I put 3 words, and that's prayer is everything. And it is, it's everything.
Yeah.
I don't doubt his prayer. I see him every morning pray. I see him every morning read his devotions. He reads and prays a lot. He doesn't see me as much reading and praying, but I do. I have to be out of the house to do that because my mind doesn't work that way. If I'm in the house needs this, this, and this, and this, and this, and I can't focus if all this other stuff I feel like I need to do. So I usually leave work or go to work early and sit in my car and listen and read and pray and do that. That's my time. So I put prayers everything. I mean, even if you have a spouse that's not a prayerful person, you're accountable for your prayer life. Your relationship with the Lord is just important. Because if yours isn't right, you can't expect your relationship to be right. And if you're in a relationship with someone who's not as prayerful, then they need to see you being prayerful.
Yeah.
So it all boils down to your relationship with the Lord and your responsibilities, and God's going to take care of the rest of that.
As I've gotten older, I think prayer, like when I was a little kid, you say like the prayer to say and all of that. And then as I've gotten older, like I've appreciated prayer even more. And when there's things that will come up, and I've even told my mom this before, I'm like, I can't do anything. Like I can't go to this place. I can't help it. I can't do anything. She's like, you can pray. And I was like, yeah, but like, I can't actively do something. She's like, no, like prayer is an action. Like prayer has action, like it does. So I'm sure knowing that like your spouse is actively thinking of you and praying for you, and how it is an action. It's not just something you're just like, oh, I'm just going to talk to God. No, like you are talking to the Lord, but like he works through that. Like it will, I don't know, like that's something that I've thought about a lot, is like the importance of prayer and for your family, for those around you, and how it is an action. Like we can do that. I like thinking about prayer and stuff as I've gotten older, like doing more research and stuff like that.
And there's peace in that.
There is.
There's a calmness in that that only God can give you.
Yeah.
Only He can give you that. So.
Yeah. And then now when people are like, I'm praying for you, it's like, thank you. You know, like you have a deeper understanding of what that means. And then it's like you really, like you are thinking of me and the Lord is working through your prayers. Like that is encouraging.
But it's like you said, as you get older, you realize more and more how powerless you are
Yeah.
and how much you depend upon God. We were talking about something that was a decision that Tonya was involved in the other day, and before she left, we just said together, Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Delight yourself in the Lord and look for Him to direct our paths, and that's what he did, and it worked out really well, and we're just thankful for each of those things that He leads us in, and you only get that by being prayerful about those things, being willing to do what He wants you to do. I remember early on, I think we'd been married maybe a year, and we weren't really breaking the bank as far as making a lot of money. And we had 4 kids at home, and she comes to me, she says, I really feel like I need to be homeschooled. And so that meant sacrificing her salary. And because we were both prayerful about it, we could make the decision fairly easily. Well, God's leading us in this direction. God will provide, and He did. And He has all of these years, hasn't He, Norm?
Yeah, He sure has.
Yeah.
Wow, how? That's okay too.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so the last little question that we have is, how would you encourage newly married couples struggling with endurance in their marriage?
Well, I hope newly married couples aren't struggling with endurance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I really do. My only encouragement is to be patient and pray, and you really have to trust your spouse. Yeah. You're not in a marriage. You are the marriage, and I think you really have to understand the difference, because you can be in a lot of things, but your relationship is the marriage. And I think trust and patience and expectations
And respect.
and absolutely respect. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
What do you think, babe?
I think sometimes it's hard because you don't realize what it takes to be married.
Yeah.
And once again, that's what goes back to that idea of the hierarchy of important things and and non-negotiables, because you have to get outside of that circle and go, okay, after that, how do we rationalize? How do we work our way through these things? And you do it by mutual respect and mutual trust, and making those decisions along the way. And that comes with time, and it becomes with learning. We have a shorthand vocabulary for certain things. There's certain things she can communicate to me pretty quickly with just a few words. But that didn't happen yesterday. It happened over a long time. And sometimes I think people assume that it's all going to be, rose-colored glasses and everything's going to be sweet and lovely. And that does last for a while. But then it comes down to when there's the nitty-gritty and everybody's tired and everybody's a little irritable and things are not going the way you want them to go, and you've got decisions to make, then that's where it comes back to being, okay, how prayerful are we about this? How prayerful and respectful are we to one another in dealing with the problems, dealing with the stress and situations? And then how much can we lean on God to let that make it happen? Because sometimes it comes down to praying for each other. Pray her, Lord, help her understand what I'm thinking and what I'm feeling. Or help me to understand what she's feeling or what she's worried about. Those kind of things. And that, trying to work into that communication, which is a big ball of wax for everybody that's married, right?
Absolutely.
And I had a friend of mine tell me one time, before you make any major decisions, pray for 3 days. What is 3 days going to be? What does it take? Just pray for 3 days and see what happens. So that's kind of like, if there's any decisions, I'm gonna pray 3 days. If it's a car, or if it's a well, or if it's of course you can't really wait for a well. If you need one, you need one. But that kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just but prayer is everything, really. It really is.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Good.
Do you have anything to add?
I don't think so.
Or do you have anything else to share?
I think we're good.
Good. I always say at the end of the podcast, you said you've listened to it, so you probably have heard before, but I'll share it with you as well. Like when we, at least for us, me and Haley aren't married, and so like sitting down with people, even women that we've interviewed last year and stuff, like hearing the things that they've been through, hearing their stories and stuff, hearing them talk about vulnerable stuff, just hearing their story. Like when I do go out in church and I see those women or I see those couples that we've been able to talk to, I associate, them with the body of Christ. Like the man had talked to on Sunday, like really like discipling each other. So when I do go out in the halls and I see these people, I'm like, oh, I remember their story. Like I remember what they shared with me and how they got through it. So then we know one day, like if we're going through a struggle or we're struggling with something, patience, endurance, whatever that might be, we're able to remember, oh, I remember the wisdom that these people had shared through their marriage. And so of course none of us are perfect and don't have any of this all down pat, but we can know these people got through it and they shared wisdom to us. So I really appreciate that, definitely. Yeah. And keep on sharing. And then maybe it'll encourage us too when we get married 20 something years, we'll be like, okay, how can we share with the other generation?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. So I'll let you close it out. You're good.
Okay. We want to thank all the listeners for joining us today too. And make sure you subscribe and leave a comment and check out our Instagram and Facebook. And we will see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.